For today's Paradox Rift tabletop testing, we have the Rapid Arven Valiant EX combo variant. It's a really speedy list that's trying to get that early yoga loop going. Obviously, you're spamming Tachyon bits as early as possible. We have a ton of switch outs in the deck list. We have Town's Door to cherry pick both the Future Booster Energy Capsule and the Forest Seal Stone. You can see the Trekking Shoes in here, the Research, the Squawkabilly. We're trying to see a ton of cards to get this combo off. And then we're hoping to take over the board with the likes of Gale Thrust and G-Max Rapid Flow to close out the game. And it's going to be coming up against the Charizard Arven list with Pidgeot and the Forest Seal Stones. We are playing some tech cards in the matchup. We have Manaphy and Jirachi, hopefully protecting ourselves a little bit against the Yoga Loop plays as well as the Rapid Flow itself. And we are even playing one copy of the Pokemon League HQ, which might make attacking with Medicham a little bit more awkward as well. If you want to hear more in-depth descriptions about both of these archetypes, we have previous battle videos for both of these lists on the channel, so make sure you check those out. And stick around to the end of the video where we talk about a few other considerations for both of these decks. If you're looking for PTCG live codes, make sure you check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code, OmniPoke. So I'm going to be playing the Rapid Valiant deck in the Charjabug sleeves, and Jack is going to be playing Charizard in the Charizard sleeves. I get a quick mulligan card in there, and we're going to be starting things off. I have the Arven Valiant EX starts, and Jack has the Radiant Charizard. Not ideal for him, but I do see at least some Bull Search. There is a Pidgey in Jack's hand, and already there's that debate, because it is only a 50 hit point Pokemon, which means it could be a prime Yoga Loop suspect. Jack's going to get rid of Boss's Orders and Pokemon League HQ. HQ is a little tech card that we are trying out in here. Helps out against, actually, Yoga Loop to some extent. Could help out against Roaring Moon and a few other matchups like that coming into this format. But looks like Jack's having to pitch it here for an early Charmander to get things going. He's actually going to keep the League HQ, yeah. Adds an extra step to my combo. I think his hand is just Candy Zard from this stage for next turn. Still a little bit awkward for him, but that's what he's got to go for right now. And we kick things off with a Nest Ball. We're going to get that Squawkabilly EX. So I will have the option to go Supporter plus Squawk for a ton of cards here to try and pick apart Jack's board. 78 points plus having to find a Stadium Bounce is quite a bit, so we'll see what we can do here. I'm going to start with a Trekking Shoe. We keep it into another Trekking Shoe. We're going to pitch the Thornton, so that's no longer an option for us. It means the Squawk is going to be on this board for good, pretty much. I'm able to Nest Ball out a Medicham V. We're going to Ultra Ball away Ultra Ball and Arven Valiant, which means Ultra Ball and Rapid Strike Energy to get an Arven Valiant. We're going to switch cards into our first Tachyon bits, and yeah, that's going to go onto the Pidgey. I have a fresh 6-card hand with the Rapid Strike Energy attachment to the Medicham plus the Future Booster Energy Capsule, so I can already retreat into my next Valiant. So I just need one switch card and a Stadium Bump to get my Yoga Loop off here. We're going to start by Nest Balling out an Urshifu V. Of course, we still have Supporter to play here, so plenty of cards to see. I'm going to throw away a VIP pass because we've already gone pretty wide on the board. We can retreat into a Valiant. I think I have just switch cards, but I don't know if I have Supporter. Yeah, so we're just going to have to take the Pidgey here, because the League HQ has actually denied a Yoga Loop, so really nice that Jack was able to keep that one. I think he picked up an Iono off the top as well, which is going to keep him in this game, I think. Can Candy Zard now and get it rolling. You can see how fragile the Rapid Urshi deck is. If it doesn't completely stomp the opponent off the board, there can still be a ton of meat for them to get through. So this should be an interesting game at this stage. Jack is going to play that Iono now. Was ideally going to try and find like that rod, the rope, but wasn't able to find it in the top 6. So it's just attaching to the Radiant Charizard. Means he can retreat it next turn. So that's looking pretty okay here. No pressure, but I think that would have been a bit of a high roll to be able to hit that, so it's just going to pass things over. Had a debate of whether or not to put down another Charmander. We do find a Town Store now, obviously a fresh hand from the Iono, plus top deck. And we are able to grab our next capsule, which tells me I probably also have the Forest Seal Stone in hand. Because you'd think that a Yoga Loop on a Charmander would be a pretty good play here. Trekking Shoes, just a debate over whether or not we should keep that, but we do in the end. We're going to play an Escape Rope. That's going to go into the Charmander. We're going to Tachyon Bit, the new active. There is the Forest Seal Stone. There's the Future Booster, and I can research for a fresh 7 here. Really comes down to just how many switch cards I can find at this stage. I'm going to throw a Rapid Strike Energy onto the Urshifu. We're going to Tachyon Bit again. Then there's the Escape Rope. I can go back into the Charizard. We can Tachyon the Charmander. Then there's another rope coming in. That's going to go into the damaged guy once again. And we're going to take our second turn, thanks to Yoga Loop, and we draw for the turn. Can Town Store just to thin out the Forest Seal Stone if it's there. Nope, just having a quick look through what's what before using an Ultra Ball here. Going to get rid of VIP plus Town Store to grab our VMAX. Obviously worth noting that the Charizard EX cannot be damaged from the bench because it has that Terrestrial trait. I'm still going to swing an energy onto this Urshifu. Then we are going to fire off the Forest Seal Stone that was already attached. Looks like I'm just grabbing another research here. To see more cards, this deck definitely has explosive starts because it has Squawk plus Supporter plus Forest Seal Stone, but it really just come down to what you see from your 7 and your Trekking Shoes for the remainder of the game. We do get a switch card, so I'm going to start pinging down this Charizard. And then we're going to come in and just Gale Thrust for 150, which actually sets this Radiant up for a Medicham KO, which is looking pretty nice. And Jack really probably wants to boss his orders our Medicham if he can. Let's have a look. Without Pidgeot, the deck is obviously significantly weaker. Can't really do what it always wants to, but he does at least have Iono, which limits our hand quite a lot. I see a rope, which is nice. It means he actually gets to keep his energy on this Radzard. And it means he can take a 2-prize KO here as well, because he's forced a 2-prizer up. He can then Town Store out Forest Seal Stone. Currently no targets for it, but he can try and weave in an Entei later down the line. He's just going to take out the Squawkabilly, level up the prize trade, pass things over to us. There's no doubt we're going to look to Yoga Loop again this turn. But we're also going to try and get as many Tachyon Bits as possible onto this Charizard to pressurize it. We can bounce back with an Iono, which is pretty nice. Jack's hand was getting pretty reasonable there. We can free retreat into that Yoga Loop and we'll just take the Radiant Charizard down. I know it doesn't help our prize race, but it gives us resets of Tachyon Bits. It gives us a free draw, and it also limits what Jack can bench now, right? By making it very risky for him to put down basic Pokemon, it's a bit of a concern for him. And then we're going to once again do some Tachyon Bit shenanigans and finish on a Gale Thrust. So 230 on that Charizard EX right now. Could mean that even a Medicham can finish it off with its second attack. Let's see what Jack can construct here. Has that Town Store still open for him, so he could Ultra Ball for Luminion or Entei, and then Town Store for Forest, which could be pretty nice. And yeah, that's what he's spying already. To see what his best option is. Could even be for Gust this turn. Just going to be Research, and then he's going to Town Store the Forest Seal Stone. I feel like with so many switch cards played, it still is reasonable for him to put down a Charmander this turn. And he is actually going to, and he's just going to get a fresh 7. Thinking about the Pidgey, again, the debate is how many pivots have I already played this game? Especially when there's an Urshifu active that's going to stay active this turn. Jack's going to flip that Forest Hill Stone and get a Manaphy to protect his bench from an easy Rapid Flow. Of course, if he wants to attack with a Charizard, he had to get the bench protection down, otherwise I would just win on the spot. But he was able to make the play because he had the Forest, right? So he knew that he could bench the Charmander and get the Manaphy if he had to. It's a shame that he had to Forest for it. Didn't find any Ball Search. He's going to put the Charmander back in hand. He's just thinking about how I could create a prize map that's awkward for him and how much it actually helps him. In the end, he's just going to smack with the Charizard EX. And it's back over to me. At least have Switch in hand. You can go Valiant for a Tachyon bit of damage. It's going to go on to the Manaphy. Or is it the Luminion? Going to change things up. I think it really comes down to how many ropes I have left. I think the idea is I want to have the backup attack for when I need it after this. So just getting enough on the Luminion could help me get into range. I think I actually prefer attacking with Medicham there than attacking with Urshifu. If I was going to do the attachment anyway, I should have just finished off the Charizard with the Medicham probably. Regardless, we go back over to Jack, who has Charmander now. I think there's already a few candy gone. I think there might be one remaining in the deck. Could Arven for it, possibly. We've just seen Entei come down. See the attached retreat for a Fleetfoot. Obviously, if he gets a Charizard, he could do bits. But I think he was just missing a few pieces, too many there, to close out the game. So that's going to be game 1. It shows that this deck does have some late game. Obviously, just the size of Urshifu is a frustration. The threat of Rapid Flow forces Manaphy down and can create easier prize maps for you. Gives you the opportunity to loop again as well in many situations. So even though it is Wombo combo based, I missed the combo in game 1 and it still managed to carve out a win. Getting into this second game then, Jack's going to be able to begin. Means I might have the chance to take some early KOs against him. Oh no, wait, I'm starting. Yeah, okay. Well, it means I can get a free Tachyon bit in. And just a pass. Never a bad thing. Jack can't evolve this turn, obviously. So any damage is helpful for loop plays. Looks like he has a strong hand. He has Vip and Arven, so can go wide, try and develop a board. The Pidgey and the Charmander are basically the same hit points now that I've done the Tachyon bits as well, so he may try and represent a couple of them, hoping that one stays around. Definitely a debate, to be honest, because it's tough out here. It's tough out here for these Pidgeys. He's going to grab Entei and Pidgey to start things off. Obviously, with that Arven in hand, he can bank a Forest Hill Stone. I think he actually has one in hand anyway. So can just thin the Vitality Band. Looking like it might be another VIP pass. As he's just taking a look through the deck. Yep, can thin the Vit Band. Interesting, going for the Mew as well as the Charmander. The Mew's a bit troublesome because I know that he probably wants to get some cards here, but it's always going to be a 60 hit point Pokemon. All of these low hit point Pokemon, they can at least evolve and stay out of range, but this Mew is always something that I could be looping at any point. So that's a bit of a worry. I feel like because he also had the forest, I don't know how much I like getting this Mew in the mix. It guarantees me a loop play. Unless Jack's eyeing up like a turn 2 boss on the Medicham, as he assumes that I'll take a KO here. I start things off with an Iono, so my hand's actually not that great, to be honest with you. We're going to go Future Booster to the new Valiant, get a ping in, and we have the classic dance of some Valiants there. And I do conjure up a Yoga Loop. We get to draw for the turn. Let's see if the prize plus draw helped me. Well, we have switch cards. We can begin pinging. It's going to be another energy onto this Medicham, possibly. And then just another Tachyon bit. The Mew does have resistance, right? So there's no point in me going for the strafe Tachyon. I just went straight for the double Valiant play there. But looks like I just fizzle here. No draw supporter, which is kind of the crucial element of the deck. So even though I got an extra turn, I couldn't really capitalize on it too much. Like, this damage is really helpful, and I could eye up another Yoga Loop, obviously, but... And denying Pidgey is huge. But it's not the explosion we were looking for. Jack's able to once again, reset the deck first to grab the Manaphy. Then was able to Mysterious Tail and find a Candy. And now we're seeing Zard come out. That means he can retreat to this Mew now. Get into the mix with the Charizard. Has Forest Seal Stone if he wants Vitality Band as well. Could support her to try and dig it out of the deck. I see the Charmeleon come in as well, just to gain some extra hit points. Jack's debating whether or not he should Luminion here for a different supporter card. I think Luminion for Arven for Vit Band is pretty valid. He may also be thinking about whether or not he should Forest Seal Stone it instead. Whether or not he wants the fish in play. Yeah, it looks like he's going to Forest Seal Stone it instead. No. Definitely worth considering. Where my prizes come from is really the question. Yeah, he's going to flip the V-Star marker in the end. Oh, interesting, going for Boss's orders. Yeah, Boss is actually way smarter than Vit Band, because Boss Medicham is really helpful here. There's the payment of retreat. And he can take his first 2 prizes. And most importantly, take that Yoga Loop threat off the board. Because there was a pretty damaged Mew there. Lined up, ready to rumble. I'm going to shuffle the deck with an Artisan. Because I think I may have Iono'd some supporters to the bottom of my deck. Couple turns back. So I just want to get those into the mix. But it may just be a classic... strafe play. Oh, interesting. So we do have 220 hit points, so we can go for 100 Furious Blows here. And we only get punished by the Vitality Band. Seeing as though Jack had played the Forest Seal Stone, it felt fairly safe to go for it, but he is able to fish Arven now. And we'll Ultra Ball out the Iono plus Jirachi to get another Charizard going. So he's really right in this mix now. Zard's ready to go. Entei is getting powered up. Vitality Band allows him to take the next knockout. And we have absolutely nothing. So the deck can fizzle at times. Doesn't always pop off. And that is the risk of playing a combo deck. If you don't wipe the floor with your opponent in the opening turns, you really can look pretty weak. Starting off with the Arven Valiant list then, some other considerations I've been thinking about. We currently don't play a Radiant Pokemon, and Charizard could actually make its way into the deck list to give us some better late-game damage output potential. I think this card could be really handy if we're expecting lots of racing 2-prizing archetypes, where traditionally we're not going to be all that great against them, because the whole Tachyon bit Yoga Loop combo may not be online for us, and we're mostly looking towards our Urshifu to get the job done. So a Radiant Zard could flip that, where we have a really good single prize attacking option that can attack for just 1 energy as we work to the late game. We already are playing a Thornton, but possibly a Super Odd may also need to be included if we want to get this package rolling, because our board space will be filled with other Pokemon for the majority of the game, and Radzard just comes in the latter stages. A Grant supporter could also help out in this regard. The Gale Thrust damage output isn't all that powerful, and seeing as though we cycle so many cards through our deck, getting a Grant banked into the discard pile to use at later stages to increase our damage output could be a pretty reasonable option. Once again, thinking about these multi-prize matchups with big basics, having these Tachyon bits putting things into range and having a Grant to buff our Gale Thrust up to 180 could be a really reasonable option. The main thing to bear in mind though is that we are combo centric and we have to dedicate a lot of our cards to getting that combo working consistently, so anytime you can make a space, I'd consider the likes of Gutsy Pickaxe or Pokegear 3.0. Basically both intend to make the deck thinner and give you better chances of drawing through the deck. As for the Charizard archetype then, there's definitely a lot of talk around the new TM evolution. It's obviously fantastic. We are at the moment leaning in very heavily into the rare candy builds, but in Japan there's been a decent amount of success around the barrel engines with Charizard, where you can TM evolve into both Bib and a Charmeleon, giving yourself a lot less work to do on the following turn. And if we're terrified of Pidgeot being bullied off the board by these Yoga Loop variants, we could go back to trying a thin Arceus package to help us make sure we get that turn 2 attack off. A small note to the 60 hit point Charmander, obviously not going to be great in this matchup, but could be a single energy attachment attacker into the Roaring Moon matchup after they've used a Frenzied Gouging through one of your Charizard EX. This could be a really handy single prize Pokemon to offset that prize trade pretty easily. Countercatcher straight up should be in the list that we were playing. I would definitely drop a Boss's Orders just to play a copy of this card. It was just an oversight when we were doing these playtest games, but I think it's a no-brainer in the deck. At the moment, we have the League HQ as an interesting tech card. I think it's handy against Miraidon. I think it's pretty good against Roaring Moon as well, where you're just forcing more resources out of these sorts of archetypes. But a Collapse Stadium could be a really handy way of pushing your Luminion off the board or tanking hits with any of your Pokemon and taking them out of play. And at the same time, the Professor Churro's scenario could do a very similar thing to what we've seen Penny act as in the past for, again, making our prize maps more difficult for our opponents, or just tanking hits, picking up Charizards that take damage and give your opponent an even bigger hurdle of hit points to get through on the following turn. Hope you enjoyed today's battle video, and I'll see you tomorrow for another video. Cheers.